So we are going to be trying something a little bit new for me today because we are going to be entering reality. Today we are talking about, I'm not sure if I'd say we're talking about accountability, but we are talking about being realistic and giving up and letting go. Which, you know, for me, like, I'm a perseverer. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, I will do the damn thing, even if I don't want to and it literally serves no purpose. But we're saying goodbye to that. You guys know that I've been DNFing a lot more books in 2022, and going forward, one of my 2023 goals is just going to be honest and realistic about what I'm enjoying. And if I don't enjoy the first book in a series, don't continue reading the series because you didn't enjoy it, so why would you? I know a lot of people say like book 4 in a series gets better. I feel like what I've realized is that I can tell from quite early on if I'm going to like later books in a series. So if I'm not enjoying something because the writing's bad or it's cringy or I find it quite juvenile, the likelihood is that I'm not going to enjoy the rest of the series. So what we're going to be doing today is looking at the series page on my reading spreadsheet that has all of the series in it that I'm currently reading, and we're going to be realistic about which ones I'm actually currently reading and DNF the rest. So I do have 2 spreadsheets, I know, and I'm going to show you both of them, but before we get into it, I just want to say that I don't share my spreadsheet because I didn't create it. It is a mixture of Ali from Hardback Hoarder's 2019 reading spreadsheet, and I've copied and pasted G's like core pile rating system into it, and then I've tweaked it to suit myself. So I don't feel comfortable sharing work that was majorly done by other people, so I'm not going to be sharing my spreadsheet. And then aside from that, if I do share it, I feel like it has to be polished and it's a whole hot mess. So please do not ask me for a copy of my spreadsheet because I will not provide it. But I am going to talk you through, or like just show you what we're currently dealing with here, because I do have a key and I do have a system, and then we'll go through the entire thing and decide which ones we are actually going to continue and which ones we are DNFing. Okay, so the first spreadsheet that I have is within my actual like yearly reading spreadsheet where I track like my hauls, my TBR, the books that I've read, all of that stuff. So what you really need to know about this is the one that we're going to be going through and clearing out. But the things I want to highlight about this before we get into that is that across the top here we have a key, and each year is represented by a color. So for example, if I read a book in 2018, the book is highlighted in purple. If I read a book in 2022, the book is highlighted in red. So as you can see, there are still series here that I started in 2018 that I have not finished, that I'm deluding myself that I'm actually going to continue with, but we know it's not going to happen. The second kind of color coding we have here is down the side. So if I scroll down to something a bit more recent, as you can see, we have different colors down this panel that has the series title in. If they are white, that means that the series is currently ongoing. I'm still working on it. If they're highlighted in green, it means that they're either completed and they have been completed within this year, or they're up to date, so no further books in that series are going to be published in 2022. And then the ones that are highlighted in red are the ones that I've DNF'd. Now at the end of every year, I go through this spreadsheet and I work out if there's going to be any further books in any series coming out, and if so, I change them back to white and I leave them in this spreadsheet with like the new books added on, and if not, I move them into my series master list. So in this one we have 3 tabs. We have one for completed series, so these are all of the series that are complete that I've finished. We have complete to date, so this is series that have more books to come, but those books aren't out yet and are not going to be out in 2022, or like whichever year we're up to. And then we have DNFs, so all of the series that I've decided that I'm not going to be continuing with. So what we're going to be doing today is turning as many of these red as possible. So some of them I can't move over into my series master list because I need to talk about them in my 2022 series wrap up, which will come at the beginning of 2023. But if they don't have any red books in them, so if I haven't touched them at all within 2022, then I'm going to be moving them over into my series master list. So let's do this. Are you ready? Because I don't think I am. I do think as well at some point a big unhaul video may follow this one where I'm unhauling a bunch of stuff, but also like some of the series maybe that I'm DNFing in this video. So starting off, the first one is Saga. Now as you can see, I read Saga volume 1 to 9 in 2018, But the only reason why Saga has come into the spreadsheet, like I've just copied and pasted it back from my series master list, is because volume 10 has just been released. And I think at the time that you're watching this, I will have just posted a full Saga reread vlog with spoilers if you guys are interested, and I will have checked that, and that will then turn green. So next up, we have the DC Icon series. So let me tell you a little bit about this. This was a series of young adult standalones that was written by a group of like YA authors, and Waterstones did a series of very pretty special editions that I wanted. And the reason why I wanted them all is because Sarah J Maas wrote Catwoman Soul Stealer. I read Batman Nightwalker by Marie Lu. Did not like it. Catwoman Soul Stealer was okay. I own Wonder Woman Warbringer, and that one's Leigh Bardugo, so I do kind of want to read it because I've read the majority of Leigh Bardugo books. And then by the time Superman Dawnbreaker came out, I had lost interest in this series and didn't even bother buying it. So this is a series of standalones, which is why I haven't read them in order, but I am going to read Wonder Woman Warbringer at some point, but I'm not even going to bother with Superman Dawnbreaker. So I think we can turn this one red. The Wolves of Mercy Falls series, this is Maggie Stiefvater. I listened to the audiobooks for the first 3 books. It's like a popular YA paranormal romance from back in the day. I can't even remember what the actual plot of it is, apart from that it's about werewolves. And I really, really liked the audiobook for this. It's dual perspective, and then when you get later in the series, there's more narrators for more perspectives. So it is actually a trilogy, and then there's a couple of spin-off books, I think, or one, I guess, because that's what my spreadsheet says. And I was going to listen to it. It followed different characters, but I was interested in listening to it because I enjoyed the audiobook experience so much. However, it has been 3 years and I have not bothered, and I couldn't even give you a synopsis of this right now. So I guess that means that we're going to be turning this one red. And on that note as well, I don't need to talk about these in my end of year wrap up, so we're just going to delete them and move them over. Okay, the Lotus War trilogy by J. Kristoff. This is a trilogy that I enjoyed when I read it. It does have some problematic elements in it, such as like cultural appropriation, but in terms of it being like a story, if you take it at surface value, it's actually really enjoyable. I do really like J. Kristoff. I didn't love Empire of the Vampire as much as I thought I was going to do, but Nevernight still does remain one of my favorite series of all time. So I do think I would like to read Endsinger at some point. However, at this point, I do feel like I'm going to have to reread the entire thing to be able to continue. So I don't know what to do in this case, because I think there's going to be a couple of things like this where I do want to continue, but it's got to the point where like I couldn't continue without a full refresh, like a full reread of the books. So it's not really a DNF, but I will be starting from fresh when I come back to it anyway. What I don't want to do is remove this from the spreadsheet and then forget that it exists, so never actually continue on with it, because every time I look at the first book, it'll be like a negative like connotation in my mind of like, oh well, you gotta reread the entire thing, and do you want to spend your time rereading? So I'm gonna leave that one for now, and then maybe at the end of this video we'll revisit it, and if not, maybe we'll do something like this again and revisit it then. So Harry Potter, as you can see, I was rereading Harry Potter in 2019. I was also making a series of book diaries on each of the books. When we got to Order of the Phoenix, the books got bigger, so I kind of paused, and then I couldn't really get behind J.K. Rowling anymore. I know a lot of people do still support her and defend her, and that's your prerogative, but her values just don't align with mine. She's been saying things that are very hurtful to a marginalized group of people, and that's just not personally something that I can get behind. Obviously the series did mean a lot to me in my childhood, and it always will, but I don't need to talk about it or promote it on my channel. Nobody needs to be promoting Harry Potter. It doesn't need people talking about it, so it costs me literally nothing to just not really talk about it, and so that's what I've decided to do. So if I do continue with my reread or decide to reread this series, I will still do it because I own all of the books. It's not like I would be giving her any money. I just wouldn't be talking about it on my channel. So I think for that purpose, we can call that one a DNF and put it into the master list spreadsheet. Oh, next up we have The Poppy War, and this is a difficult one for me because I read this in 2019. Everybody was saying that this was like the best book of 2018, the best adult fantasy, and I I read it and I was deeply disappointed. This is like a grimdark fantasy about a girl who goes to this military academy just to escape her family life because she has like foster parents that she hates and mistreat her. So she goes to this military academy, and before any of these kids in this academy know it, the country actually does go to war and they have to face realities of war that they never thought that they would have to. I didn't enjoy the writing or the plot. I thought it was too jumpy, too kind of fast paced. It did a lot of things that annoyed me, but I did always mean to continue because I believe that I won the Dragon Republic in a giveaway that Harper Voyager was doing. However, I just have such a negative opinion of this series in my mind that I actually don't think I ever will continue. I don't have any desire to. I do have Babel by R.F. Kong that I am going to try, and if I do enjoy that one, then I may revisit this series. But for now, I'm just going to accept that this one is going to be a DNF for me. So Isola is a comic book series that has absolutely stunning artwork, which is why I wanted to read it. However, the contents of the actual comics don't really match up to, like, it's pretty, but I'm not vibing with the story. It's okay, and it is about this young guard whose queen has been turned into a tiger, and they are trying to get the queen to the mythical land of Isola to be able to change her back. Volume 3 just doesn't exist. I don't know if the series has been cancelled, so realistically I am up to date on this. It's just unfinished and volume 3 doesn't seem to be coming anytime soon. So we'll call this, I'm gonna call this up to date actually, because I have read everything that's kind of like available. I also feel like at the beginning we should have noticed how much we had here, so let's have a look. We've moved 3 over, and in total oh my god, guys, oh no, there's like 99 series on this list. Okay, we need to hurry up. The Hunger Games, we all know what the Hunger Games is. I started a reread of this in 2019 because I used to reread a lot, and I thought that this would be a series that I really enjoyed rereading. I hate these books on rereads. I don't think they're very good. So I'm gonna call this a DNF to preserve any nostalgia that I do still have for them, but I have already read them. So I guess for these that I've already read and I'm rereading, we can just like pretend that it never happened because it's just a reread that I've DNF'd, not the actual series. Sookie Stackhouse. I don't like this series. I think Sookie Stackhouse is the dumbest main character I've ever had the misfortune of following, but I have all of the books and I went to such lengths to painstakingly seek out every single book in that like 12-13 book series from charity shops. I paid like £1 each for them, so it hurts for me to say that I don't want to read them anymore, but I've read 4 books in this series and they were all bad, and I know like Bobby wants me to continue for things that you find out later on, but I don't actually care. I don't care. So no. An Unkindness of Magicians by Kat Howard. So what we just need to do with this is delete this and mark this as read, because this is a series that was supposed to have a sequel that came out in like 2019 and never did. So I just kind of left it here, but I need to move that now. Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. Okay, we're getting into books that I read in 2020 now, so well, partially. So this one I do actually intend to continue. I just don't have book 3 yet, but this is a YA series that I actually like decently enjoy. Wayward Children by Shauna Maguire. This is a difficult one. Or is it? No, because we're being realistic. The whole point of this is to stop persevering with stuff that like I'm giving 3 stars to. So Wayward Children, it's about a group of kids, or like a home for children that have been to Portal World, and the books are kind of alternating. So book like 1, 3 and assumedly like 5 are set at the home for wayward children, and it's about after they've come back from this world, and then the even numbered books like books 2 and 4 are set in the Portal World. I just think that they're all okay. The thing about these is that there's kind of like a book for everybody because they're all so vastly different, but realistically I didn't really enjoy any of them all that much, so we can call these ones a DNF as well. The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. This is going to be like the Lotus War trilogy, where it is a series that I do definitely intend to continue, but do I have to reread? The problem that I had with this, the reason why I never continued, is that I don't like short stories, and the first 2 books, The Last Wish and The Sword of Destiny, are short stories. So I gave The Last Wish like 2 or 3 stars, didn't enjoy it, but I want to at least get to the point where we get to like full-length novels, because I just don't like short stories, so that would definitely play a part in like my enjoyment. So I'm gonna leave that one. Gossip Girl, another series that I painstakingly collected every single book from a charity shop from £1 each. And Gossip Girl is one of my favorite shows, so I kind of want to keep it for the nostalgia vibes. But do I need to keep it for the nostalgia vibes? I feel like I need to chuck a bunch of books in storage, but then what's the point, because I just know I'll never take them out. Not like I have nostalgia for the actual books. I love Gossip Girl, the show. I would rewatch that in a heartbeat. But am I ever going to read the books? This makes me feel like I have to unhaul them, and I'm not sure I'm ready to part with Gossip Girl yet. We'll see. I need to get rid of them. Oh, but it's just I have so much nostalgia for the days when I was like 19 and I used to go to charity shops, and like this was when I had like 11 books in total to my name, and I would like look for them, and if I found I don't know, that's not this video. Children of the Whales, we are keeping. That is a manga series. As you can tell, I'm up to volume 9. This needs filling in more because it does go up to like volume 17 now or something, maybe further, but I am still working on that. Same with The Land of Ingary. Howl's Moving Castle, one of my favorite books of all time. This is a series by Diana Wynne Jones. Middle grade, but middle grade in the way that middle grade used to be, where it's kind of like just a story that's suitable for children, but not necessarily a children's story, if that makes sense. I loved Howl's Moving Castle, didn't love Castle in the Air very much. Don't think I'm gonna love House of Many Ways, but they're all kind of like standalones, so it doesn't matter too much that it's been a while since I've continued. Umbrella Academy by Gerard Way and is it Gabriel Barr. I don't like this. I adore the TV show. The TV show is one of the best. I didn't love season 3, but in general it's one of the best TV shows that I've ever seen, one of my favorites. But the thing about the TV show, it's about this group of heroes who were gathered at birth. They were all born with powers on the same day, and they were gathered by this guy who made them into a band of superheroes as children. And it's set when they're in the 30s and they have a very dysfunctional family. They all hate each other, but they come back together for their dad's funeral and hijinks ensue. Now, the thing that I love about the show is how truly dysfunctional they all are, but how they're still family. It's a little bit morally grey, but the character work is what makes this so good, and there's just none of that in the comic. Yeah, I'm not going to continue. That's the DNF. Something Dark and Holy by what's her face? I can see her in my brain. Is she called Emily? Emily Duncan? Is that her? Wicked Saints by Emily Duncan. That sounds right. I gave this first book 3 stars. The problem is that I do have them all, and I do feel like I want to give this one an extra chance. This might be one that I leave on here just a little bit longer. My issue is that Emily Duncan, it was kind of revealed that she was part of this thing where she would like manipulate and bully other authors, which has really put me off. But I have them all, you know? So I don't know, we'll leave that one for a bit, but I feel like that is one that is going to go by the wayside at a different time. Legion by Brandon Sanderson. I literally, oh my god, I've only just remembered that I started this. This is a series of like Brandon Sanderson short stories about a detective, and it's all bound up into like one book. I've got a Sanderson book here. It's about the same size of Alloy of Law, but it's just like very short 100-page stories. I need to continue on with that. We're keeping that there. I forgot about that. Heartstopper, I need to edit this because I just put volume 5 in because I assumed there would be a volume 5 this year, but it's actually, there's a yearbook instead, which I have just got my hands on. Don't know whether it's the kind of thing that you actually read. I haven't looked at it yet, but that will definitely be staying. And Frostheart by Jamie Littler, which is a middle grade series about a boy who's searching for his parents in this like frozen tundra. I really just need to read book 3. So we'll be leaving that one there because I do intend to continue. We also have Mary Poppins, which the reason why I started Mary Poppins is because I have such nostalgia from it from when I was growing up, and it really makes me feel close to my mum. So this is one that I'm going to be continuing on with, but it's a very like low priority if and when I want to. It's not something that like I'm gonna pick up like consistently, you know. His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. I gave the first book 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's about a girl called Lyra who I actually don't remember. I don't remember what it was about, but it was once again this series is one of those that isn't for any particular age group. It is suitable for children, but it doesn't mean that it's a children's story. And I really liked the first book. I have heard that the second and third aren't as good. I read this in 2019 and I have made no move to pick up the sequel. I don't even own it. So goodbye. Nevermore. This is completed. The only reason why this is here is because Silverborn is not out yet. It was supposed to be out this year, but it was pushed back, which is why it's still here. The Devouring Grey by Christine Lynn Herman. I really enjoyed that. It's like a atmospheric, spooky, paranormal YA book about this girl who moves back to her family's hometown and finds out that she's one of the founders of the town and that they have this secret duty to fight against the beast that lives in the woods. Really loved The Devouring Grey, but did not read The Deck of Omens, so we're going to be keeping that. Tyrant Soul series by C.L. Wilson. This is when I started getting into fantasy romance after reading House of Earth and Blood, and I wanted to explore fantasy romance as a genre finally. And this is like the first one that I found. It's very classic fantasy romance, reminds me of like the Channel 5 Hercules TV show, and I actually got halfway through book 3. It's still on my currently reading in Goodreads, and that was in 2020. So it's been a while, but I would have DNF'd this. I would have turned this red, but somebody has just put it into my Inner Circle Patreon pot, so I'll leave that because book 3 is going to be coming up at some point, so we can keep that one for now. Serpent and Dove by Shelby McCurran. I liked Serpent and Dove okay. I gave it 5 stars. That was too generous. Maybe a high 3 or a 4. It was just a good time. And I enjoyed it. I have Blood and Honey, so we're going to be leaving this one for now, so I do aim to continue, but this once again may be one where I have to reread book 1 before I can continue. Tales of Earthsea, or the Earthsea Cycle by Ursula K. Le Guin. This is one, you know, there was Le Guin along, we were reading it and it was awful. It was one of the most boring things I've ever read in my life. I hated it, but I wanted to read it to continue because it's a classic, and I made it halfway, you know, and that was a struggle. So I wanted to complete it because I have the big bind up, but I don't have to. Just because it's a classic doesn't mean it's good. Lifelike by J. Kristoff. Once again, like I said, really like J. Kristoff. This one, however, is like an Anastasia retelling with cyborgs, and I don't like it. It's kind of like Robot Wars. It's just not for me. It's not for me, and that's okay. I can still like his other books. Legends of Irion Sea is a middle grade series that I do plan on continuing. I do have Gargantus, and it's set in this like seaside town with a guy who works at a hotel called Herbie Lemon, I think he's called Herbie Lemon. They're solving like mysteries and also dealing with like legends of the town that actually like turn out to be real. It's cute. Oz is very similar to Mary Poppins, where I do plan on continuing, but it's no great priority. It's just something very nostalgic for me, where I've grown up. This and Mary Poppins is where I've grown up with the movie, not the book, but I do want to read the books because I didn't when I was a kid, so that one will be staying. The Nikolai Duology by Leigh Bardugo. King of Scars is the worst Grishaverse book that I've read. I think I've given every other Grishaverse book 4 or 5 stars, and this one was a 3. So that's the reason why I haven't read Rule of Wolves, because I don't want to, but I will, because it's the only Grishaverse book that I haven't read. I actually thought about picking it up the other day, but have not gotten there yet. Boy on the Bridge. I heard excellent things about The Girl with All the Gifts. This is a zombie story about a child that's being experimented on, kind of. And The Boy on the Bridge, I'm assuming, is a kind of like spin-off companion novel following a boy. Didn't love The Girl with All the Gifts as much as I wanted to, but I did want to read The Boy on the Bridge, and I do have it, so we'll leave this one, but it's like a very maybe. The David Bad trilogy, I'm actually continuing on with this month or next month. It's on my Bookopoly TBR for November and December, and I did really enjoy City of Brass. It's just with all of these things, I never really got back to it, so that one's fine. Dreaming Sun, I would have finished by now if it was possible to get hold of the manga. This one is a like YA contemporary that's like it's kind of like a YA New Girl essentially, and I really like it. It's really funny. I think I've read volume 4. Yes, I have, but I don't know when, so I can't colour that in. But volume 5 is impossible to get hold of. I think it might have actually just been reprinted. So I keep looking for it in my comic book store and I just haven't got it yet. The Bridge Kingdom. These books are actually released as Audible exclusives. So you have to wait a year, I think, after they've been released on Audible before you can have the physical copy. So I've only just got a copy of The Inadequate Heir, which is why I haven't continued. Angel After the Fall, I'm reading. I can't believe that I started this in 2020. This is insane. Oh, this one's the canonical comics. Yeah, so these are really hard to find, and I managed to get volume 1 really easily and then couldn't find the rest. I do actually have, I think I've got the first half of Angel season 6 now. I just have not gone back to it. Stormlight Archive, obviously not going to be DNFing this. I needed to read Second Year of Mistborn, which this is what I'm currently reading, which is why it's to hand. But I need to read the first 3 books in this series before I can read Rhythm of War. And now, because I was hosting a read along or co-hosting a read along of Stormlight, so I ended up reading the Cosmere out of order, and I need to get back into the order of it. So I'm back on Mistborn Era 2 now, and I actually think I'm going to reread all of the Stormlight Archive. Golden Enclave, which is the 3rd and final book in the Scholomance series, has just been released. I've just gotten that. And this one, see, I'm not progressing, I'm not deleting as much as I thought I was going to do now that I'm at this point, am I? I hate the writing in this series, but I really like the characters and the plot, so I've just got the Golden Enclave, so we will be keeping this one. Kingdom of the Wicked by Kerry Maniscalco. I have Kingdom of the Feared, the Fairy Loot edition, on its way to me, so we'll keep that one. Blood and Ash, I hated Crown of Gilded Bones, which has really put me off. I was up to date on this series. I now need to read An Ember in the Shadow, or whatever the spin-off is called, so that I can move on to the War of Two Queens, which I don't really want to read. We'll see how Shadow in the Ember goes, because I've heard that that one's quite good. The Skyward series is Brandon Sanderson's YA sci-fi, and I loved book 1, did not like book 2, which has once again put me off book 3. I currently am also reading the novellas that go in between book 2 and 3, so I think I have one more novella to read, and then I can get on with Cytonic. If Cytonic is like Starsight, which just did the same thing as book 1 but with a different cast of characters, and if Cytonic's the same, then I may DNF this one. The Fever series by Karen Marie Moning is a very popular and well-loved paranormal romance series. I actually did enjoy the first book, so I will keep that one. The Wicked Villain series by Katie Robert. I read, I think, books 2 to 4 all back to back, and I really burnt myself out, which has put me off books 5 and 6, but once again, we're gonna be keeping this one. The Kingmaker Chronicles by Amanda Boucher. I read Promise of Fire because I was interviewing Amanda Boucher on my channel, and then with all of this stuff that's going on, I just haven't continued yet, but I do want to. I did like book 1. The Buffy reboot I'm currently working on. As you can tell, I've read one quite recently. I think it was like actually last month. I keep jumping around at this point, guys. I'm so sorry. The Book of the Ancestor by Mark Lawrence it's been slow progress reading this series. I can't believe that it's been a year since I read Grey Sister. Shit, I didn't realize that. But I do need to get on Holy Sister. It's not even that long. It's like the shortest in the series. I'm just realizing at this point that I need to stop. I need to stop. The Fae Chronicles. Okay, this is a fantasy romance series, an indie one that was very highly recommended along with like the Tyrant Soul series, but it's just not very well written, and I don't like the magic powers in here. Like, I think it's about a witch and a fae, and like the witch is supposed to be helping the Fae Prince with something, but the fae have weird sex magic and it's a bit creepy and I really don't like it, and the perspective of the Fae Prince is actually insufferable. So I'm gonna be DNFing that one. I'm very sorry because I know quite a few people really like it. Okay, now we're getting into some juicy ones. So the Witchland series by Susan Dennard. I did Witchland's Long, which was hosted by Jade from JD Ray Reads. I liked the first book. The second one, yeah, the second one was all right. The third and the fourth, not a good time. There is currently one book to be published in this series. I bought them all in hardback because I liked the first book as well, which I'm really sad about, and I have been coming to terms with the fact that I should probably unhaul those. So I'm going to, I'm vaguely intrigued with how it ends, but some of my criticisms of this series, it's like, it's supposed to be adult fantasy, but it's essentially like YA fantasy. It has the pacing and the characters of a YA fantasy, but the complexity of plot and magic system of an adult fantasy, but the writing of YA fantasy as well. And it's Susan Dennard trying to be clever, and it just doesn't come off very well. And I barely remember what's happened in the series so far. The main characters are doing absolutely nothing apart from running around the map, while the side characters are actually working on the plot off page. At the minute, like, I kind of want to finish it out, and I'm intrigued to see like what Susan Dennard does in this last book whenever it's released, which won't be anytime soon, so this shouldn't be on the spreadsheet anyway. But I think what I'm going to do, instead of leaving it open in case I do want to continue when the last book is released, I'm actually going to DNF this one. And if I want to read the series, because I put it in my master list so I can always get it back out. If I want to read the last book, then I will. but I don't know if I will. And realistically, the last book is not going to redeem the rest of the series for me, so I can go ahead and unhaul them all. Yeah, you're definitely getting a big unhaul after this, guys. The Demon Cycle by Peter V. Brett. This is one of like the, not actual classic, but one of the must-read like adult fantasy series, and I wasn't a fan of The Painted Man. It's more plot driven, and it has like it was quite reminiscent of Earthsea to me in the way that I guess the world building and the writing is, and I wasn't really connected to any of the characters, and also I don't like the treatment of female characters in this book. I heard from some people that the second book is better, but then the rest of the series is bad, and I heard from some people that the second book is worse but the rest of the series is good. I've just decided that I don't wish to care either way, so we'll get rid of that. Red Rising is intentional why it's on here. I read the first 3 books last year and they were my favorite books of the year. One of my favorite series ever, obsessed. But at that point we'd had like multiple dates for book 6 and then it kept like disappearing or getting pushed back. And now we have finally had the release date and the cover for book 6 and also the reveal of a book 7. So now that I know when book 6 is coming out, I am going to read Iron Gold and Dark Age early next year in like March and April, because book 6 comes out in May, and then I might reread the entire thing before book 7 comes out. But all of that is just to say that like I haven't forgotten about this series. I just didn't want to read the second trilogy before I knew when book 6 was out, because I know how Pierce Brown really likes his plot twists and cliffhangers. The Bromance Book Club by, is it Lyssa Kay Adams? This is a series of contemporary romances following this group of guys who are part of this romance book club, and each book is like one of them and like their romance, so I just haven't continued. It's a series of standalones, so I'm in no rush. Married to Magic. I'm pretty sure I've already seen this in my DNF column of, yeah, there it is. This shouldn't even be here, so I am gonna go ahead and just turn that red. This one is a series of like standalone fantasy romances, but they're all very sweet and wholesome, which just, they're great if you're new to fantasy romance, but they just don't cut it for me. The Plated Prisoner by Raven Kennedy is one that's actually very frustrating, because I would 100% continue on with this series if I could get a matching copy of book 4, because Penguin have picked it up in the UK, which means that I can no longer have a self-published like paperback of this book, and I was supposed to order it from the US and now it's unavailable, so I can't. I don't want a hardback of book 4, and I don't want to, so I am going to get the Fairy Loot editions actually, which have just been announced of the first 3, but I don't want to swap out my paperback editions for hardbacks, because all of mine are signed and personalized by Raven Kennedy, because I met her at Rare this year. So this is one that I do want to continue with. I just want some sort of matching edition of Glow, which is also frustrating because Fairy Loot are actually doing books 1 to 3, and then eventually I think they're going to do like the second half of the series, but I need a copy of Glow so that I can actually read it. The Angel reboot, this is the same as the Buffy reboot, but you have to kind of like read them in order, so I'm hopping between the 2. We're DNFing this. This is a book that Aaron from Booked and Busy made me read for, was it the Busy Bee Book Club? And it was just, no, it's about this guy who goes on his honeymoon and he loses his wife immediately. They go to the Tower of Babel, and on every floor there's something different, so he heads into the tower to find her. And my enjoyment of this first book was very dependent on which floor of the tower he was on, but it had a very kind of like steampunky vibe to it that just really isn't my thing, so I don't want to continue with this series. The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, once again a series of standalone romances. I have been warned now, because I went into the Kiss Quotient expecting it to be a kind of just like a fluffy contemporary romance, you know, but it does deal with some harder hitting topics that made me feel quite uncomfortable. Not because I can't handle the topics, but because when I went into it I was expecting a light fluffy romance, so it kind of blindsided me. And I have been warned that the rest of the series is the same, so I am going to continue with this, like with what is it called? The Bromance Book Club. I'm just not in any hurry to do so. And I think the Bride Test is also in my Inner Circle Patreon jar, so it will come up at some point. The Lord of the Rings. I'm very torn about this, because there's something going on with the Lord of the Rings. I don't like the movies. I can't pay attention to them. I couldn't tell you anything about Lord of the Rings, and I have watched the movie multiple times. I've read the book, and I can't tell you a single thing apart from it's about a group of guys who are going to take the One Ring to Mordor. But I couldn't tell you any of the intricacies of the plot. after having consumed this media multiple times in multiple different formats. There's something about me and Lord of the Rings that just does not gel. This was on my 30 books to read before 30 list, and also Ashley bought me some very nice editions of Lord of the Rings. I'm going to DNF, but I'm going to keep the books because it's classic fantasy, they're nice editions, and maybe one day we will revisit it. The Atlas Paradox I haven't continued on with because I don't have my copy yet. I ordered the Fairy Loot edition, but when it does, I'll continue. The Dark Eyes duology by Karina Halley. This is a difficult one because I don't actually want to continue on with this one all that much, but I do have the sequel and it was gifted to me as well, so I am going to keep this one, but I'm just going to go and find it now. There is another Karina Halley one on here, Underworld Gods, where I've just mentioned the sequel in my Kindle Unlimited TBR, but we're actually going to go ahead and DNF this. Karina Halley is a fantasy romance author. The Underworld Gods series is about like Norwegian mythology, and she has to go to the underworld to save her father. And the Dark Eyes one is about vampires and a girl who doesn't know that she was a vampire because she was raised by witches but actually raised as a human. And both of them were just very average for me and didn't do it for me. I do seem to be the odd one out with Black Sunshine though. A lot of people really love that one. All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. This is a like YA / new adult fantasy about this group of kids that have to fight to the death to secure magic. It's very much like an Unkindness of Magicians, where they're trying to secure the magic for their family until the next tournament is held, but they're all like villainous kind of people. It's not as villainous as you would want it to be, with it being called All of Us Villains and supposedly about villains, but I did really like it. I found it to be very atmospheric. Christine Lynn Herman, I feel, is very good at like a spooky contemporary fantasy kind of atmosphere, if that's something you're interested in. And I just got a finished copy of this sent to me by the publisher a couple of months ago, so I do want to finish this one out. It is just a duology as well. Lore Olympus Volume 3 has only just been released and I haven't gotten it yet, so I definitely will be continuing on with that because I loved Volume 1. Oh, okay, this is a young adult sci-fi series by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. I do have, I think, the second book, and I have more Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner books. My problem with this one is that I wanted to read it because Amy Kaufman co-writes Illuminate and the Aurora Cycle with Jay Kristoff, and I do really like those ones, but this is once again just like a repeat of Illuminate and the Aurora Cycle. It's just, well, more like Illuminate because it's a sci-fi story, a sci-fi trilogy where each book follows a different couple with an overarching plot, and I think Illuminate's better. I did have a good time with the first one. Is it enough to continue though? No, let's not do it. This is the point. Let's not do it. No, it wasn't good enough to continue. I can live without finishing that. Chorus of Dragons by Jen Lyons. It's, oh god, I started this, okay, and I loved the first book. It is a story that, very briefly, because we're not going to get into it too much here, but very briefly, is about a boy who is destined to destroy the world. And the first book is very uniquely told from him in first person, but also from a different character about him in third person from a different point in time. And then eventually, like, kind of the storylines all catch up with each other and it continues. So what I really wanted from book 2 is for it to continue, and what it actually did was exactly the same thing as book 1, but with a different character. I hated it. Book 3, I've been told, is going to make or break it for me. If I enjoy book 3 again, we're golden. If not, give up. And I actually read, these are big books, but I read the first 2 pretty quickly, and then I was so annoyed about book 2 that I've dragged my feet. But I enjoyed book 1 so much, I ordered the paperback of book 3 and also pre-ordered book 4 in paperback. So when I was reading book 2 and hating it, book 4 arrived and I was like, not a good time, but I am continuing with this one because I did love book 1. Never Never by Colleen Hoover and Taryn Fisher, something else that I have put on my Kindle Unlimited TBR recently. This is like a serial, so all 3 parts make up like one solid book about 2 teenagers with amnesia. It's low energy, so yeah, we will continue with that one. But Zodiac Academy, okay guys, what do we do about this? Because I've been told that I should read book 3. People are obsessed with this series, but I think it's terrible, and I feel like it falls into the category of things where I think it's too bad for me to ever enjoy it because I'm so bitter about having to read it that I think even if it did turn good, I wouldn't enjoy it, you know what I mean? But I did promise that I would read book 3. I promised. But I don't want to. Am I going to miss out on anything if I do not read this book. But what if I do love it? I don't think I will. In the spirit of this video, would I rather live a week with no eyebrows or read this book? I'd rather read this book, but that was an extreme example. But I don't want to read the book. No. If somebody ever makes me read it, I will read it, but no. And actually, in that spirit, we're getting rid of Never Never as well because I can't be bothered. Savage Lands, I really like this series. It's not the best. It's kind of formulaic and repetitive. It's a fantasy romance, kind of post-apocalyptic, about this girl who ends up in this maximum security prison, and she meets this guy who looks like Jason Momoa called Warwick Farkas. Very addictive. I would have continued with this series if Waterstones would send me book 3, 4, and 5. I ordered them all so that I didn't have to wait, like I have had to wait because I keep ordering them one book at a time. So I ordered them all at once, and Waterstones are just dragging their feet on actually sending them to me. So we're definitely keeping this one open. The Bridgerton series, no. I was going to continue because the Viscount Who Loved Me is enemies to lovers as far as I'm aware, if it follows the theme of the show and it's like slow burn, because I understand why they're addictive as well. Like I really liked the Gossip Girl kind of tone of The Duke and I, but I didn't like Daphne, which is why I kind of was open to continuing, but I'm in no hurry to continue at this point, and they are a series of standalones kind of, so I can dip in and out, but for now, no, because I don't want to. No, if I come across the second book at a charity shop, I'll pick it up and we'll revisit this, but right now I don't want it just sat here for years when I'm actually like have no intention of continuing anytime soon. Oh, Soul's Trilogy by Harley LaRue. Her Soul to Take is going to be on my best books of the year list. As you can see, we're nearly at the end, so this is super recent. So yeah, this is going to be on my best books of the year list, so Her Soul for Revenge will definitely get read at some point. I need a Kindle Paperwhite or something because I'm getting old and I can't read on an iPad anymore, or like my Kindle Fire, without my eyes feeling weird. So I've been putting off reading Kindle books, which is really annoying because I could, oh, maybe I should ask for one for Christmas. Maybe I should ask Curtis for one for Christmas. Dreamland Billionaires. This is a series of contemporary romance standalones, but I thought that the first book was way too long. Well, the series is about 3 brothers who are going to inherit Disneyland, but it's like a fictional version. And the founder, who was their grandfather, has died, and he's left conditions in his will where each brother has to do something to unlock their inheritance. And this guy has to like create something new, like get back in touch with the park and the people and create something new. And a impartial board of judges are going to vote on whether he succeeds, and if he does, he gets his inheritance. And he ends up falling for this girl who is a Dreamland employee. I thought it was too long. It tried to do every single trope. It could have ended halfway through if it would have just embellished the conflict. It just felt very forced. The guy wasn't doing it for me. He was very clearly supposed to be he very clearly was a bargain brand Joshua Templeman, and because of that, it's completely put me off the rest of the series. The Psy Changeling series by Nalini Singh. Didn't love book 1. I'm more inclined to read the Archangel series by Nalini Singh. I've discovered that I don't love books that follow a different couple per book if it's fantasy. Like I like it to be the same couple with higher stakes instead of, because I like a slow burn, you know, I like sexual tension. But this one, I'm gonna leave it because I'm open to continuing. I feel like what's going to happen is that I'm going to try the Archangel series, which I think the first so many books follow one couple and then the next so many books follow a different couple. I feel like I'm going to try the Archangel series, and if I really like that one, then I'm going to be more inclined to come back to Psy Changeling, but it all depends on like my enjoyment of that one, I feel. Magnolia Park's universe absolutely will be continuing. This is a series of romances that aren't romances. So it is a group of incredibly angsty, toxic people being angsty and toxic to each other. It's like a British Gossip Girl. It's like Chuck and Blair at their absolute worst. And there's like crime families in here as well, which is where I'm up to with the sequel Daisy Hates. Absolutely will continue. Black Dagger Brotherhood, hands down the best paranormal romance that I've ever read with Dark Lover, will be continuing. Maybe not super quickly. I don't have the second book, but if I can get my hands on it pretty cheaply, because this is a big series, I don't want to pay full price for all of these books. How many are there? 14, 15, 16, like 18 maybe. And I don't think the series is finished. So yes, definitely interested in continuing that. The Lycanius trilogy, I literally literally only just started, but I really enjoyed The Shadow of What Was Lost. Gave it 4 stars. Will be continuing hopefully this month. And the Four Horsemen series by Laura Thalassa is my very first Patreon book club series. So I will be reading War this month, with Famine and Death finishing the series in I think January. And then finally, the last series on here is the 5 Crimes of Orcrith series, which as you can see, I've already DNF'd. And that is it. That is the end. Wow, that was a lot. If we want to go through here and see how much we have accomplished today with this, we have DNF'd 1, 2, I need to move them all actually, but we cut this down from, what did I say it was? 100 minus 4 is 96 plus 3, 99. There was 99 series on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and move all of the ones that we've DNF'd, or like the couple that we've turned green, and we'll see what we have left. Okay, so this is looking a little bit like a hot mess, but we've added 2 to the complete and up-to-date series. I've moved 18 series, so from here downwards into my DNF pile, which is the biggest achievement of this video. So that puts us at 20 sorted out. And then there are the ones on here that we've decided that I'm not continuing with, that I can't move because I need to talk about them in my end of year series wrap up. So of those, there are 5. So in total, we have dealt with 25 series in this video. That does mean that there are still 78 here, but as you guys can obviously tell, when it gets to the end of the year and I film that wrap up, there's a whole ton of stuff that I can move along, because there's all of these green ones that I finished or are up to date, and then we have all of the ones that were read before we even started, like Realmbreaker, the 5 Crowns of Orcrith, and the Old Kingdom series. So that just about brings us to the end of this video. I have to say, I didn't expect this to take so long. I did procrastinate on filming this a little bit, and it appears that that was justified now, considering how long it has taken me to go through this. Oh, Bray, stop yawning. But I am sorry if I've DNF'd any of your favorite series. I am especially sorry for like Zodiac Academy. If I might at some point read book 3, and there are a couple of series we talked about today that I would consider continuing if the circumstances were right. But right now these circumstances are not right, and I'm sick of having these things putting like a mental pressure on me, being like, oh well, instead of reading something you want to read, maybe you should make progress in this 3-star series that you're really bitter about. And I hope that watching this video has been even slightly as cathartic for you guys as it was for me to actually just DNF and get rid of all of those series. So down in the comments, please let me know if you think some of the ones that I did that about, did you think that I made the right decision? Also, let me know a series that you've DNF recently, and do you, like me, feel bad? Do you feel guilt for DNFing? Like, do you feel like you need to complete things even if you're not enjoying them? Because like, life is too short, we all know this. And if you are one of those people, take this as your sign to have a look at what you're currently in the middle of and DNF the things that don't bring you joy. And then of course, if you have nothing else to say to me but you want me to know that you were here, leave me a stack of books emoji down in the comments. But aside from that guys, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you wanna. If you head to my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish candle website, the Etsy, and a 10% off discount code for that. But that's it from me today guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.